Hello friends and welcome back to Animal Crossing. I am Peachie Llama here on YouTube and today we are back on Willowisp for another speed build. If you guys are just as excited as me because this is one of my absolute favorite builds to date. I wanted to make a fanciful mushroom forest, so that is what we're doing today. I hope this helps you guys with whatever you're getting up to on your islands, whether it's a fanciful theme like this one or if it's cottagecore, whatever you can use mushrooms with. I hope this will be helpful. So let's get right into it. Okay, so this is right next to the castle on Willowisp, and I was like, I need something to fill this giant space, and what better to do a giant mushroom forest with. I'm really excited because I wanted to make it, I guess, match just as well with everything else. And of course, Murphy's here. We had to stop by and say hello to Mr. Murphy. How did I get to be so late? Where'd the hours go? And how do I get out here? Oh, that's a little concerning if you forgot, sir. Anyway, I wanted to make this forest have, I guess, a more natural feel to it, almost a bit of a realistic feel. As much as I want it to be fanciful, I didn't want it to be overly done. And I think I've seen some mushroom forests that are primarily the red and white polka dot ones, and those are adorable, but I just felt like they were a bit too cottagecore, a bit too Alice in Wonderland-y for me, and this I wanted this to be somewhat a realistic fanciful vibe, so that is what I'm going with today. We're going to use a variety of mushroom colors, even though I was considering just sticking to one, but I felt like the solid colors actually work really well together, and we have all those elements here on the island, and it just turned out way better than I ever expected it to. I'm creating a path here to have a kind of a circle to go around. I always thought I'd like to have something like a centerpiece in the middle of a pathway, so that is kind of the vibe we wanted to start going with this. And then eventually we'll fill it in with a spooky carriage, which I was so excited to figure out because I've, and again, always wanted to use that item and never really had a space to do so. So here is where we wrap up our circle and kind of get a vibe for how everything is flowing. I wanted it to be winding. I didn't want it to be a straight path. And I felt like this turned out really well. And I kind of liked how it split off a little bit on its own at certain points. And how it gets thicker and then thinner at certain areas. It just looks really nice in my opinion. Coming in with those stones to lead into one of the side entrances to the castle, of course. And now I'm going to start placing our giant parasol mushrooms because they are kind of the leading star of this forest, and I wanted to get a good idea of where they were going to be since they are such big items. They take up a lot of space, so I felt like if I just have a good idea of where they're going to be, then I can plant trees around them and everything else in between. I liked the varying alternating colors and just trying to make it a little different, and again sticking with the colored mushrooms really helped me, I think, keep it feel at least a little more realistic in my personal taste. But I love what I've seen again of others using the polka dotted mushrooms, so I think another time would be really cool to make one of those, because then you could make an entire island of just those mushrooms, and I think that would be adorable. It's just not the vibe I wanted to go for on this build. I also was looking at using all the different kinds of mushroom DIYs. I never really used the table before, and I found a few good places to use that. And I was really excited to figure that out because I think they look really good on the side and the background, especially if they're not actually used as tables. So now I'm starting to plant in some trees to see how we're looking, and I really already enjoy it, and I wanted to alternate as we've been doing, but also not block the view of all the mushrooms that we have. So that's always the biggest thing for me, is just finding ways to incorporate the trees but not overdo it so that the mushrooms are kind of covered up, and that's not the vibe. We're trying to work together. Whenever the cliff is like a half spot and it doesn't let you put a tree, I get really frustrated over that. It drives me crazy. But anyway, we're going to fill up this little section here to make the two path solid, and we're going to just take another step to kind of look around and see if there's anything we want to adjust. And I want to start putting in the thinner lamps to kind of be just thinner mushrooms to add some variation, and of course light up the winding pathway of our forest. These tables, I love these tables. I used to hate the tables because I'm like, when am I going to use a mushroom table for anything? And now I have a good reason. I'm really excited about them, especially the blue color. Same thing with the partition. I really never use the partition. It's usually just so big and doesn't usually fit with my style, but I really thought it worked well to fill in more space here on this mushroom forest. Again, that blue table, that blue mush table is literally the cutest thing. It's just such good variation, and it's not just all the parasol mushrooms. And yes, I had to put 2 of them because I'm like, it's perfect. Just look at that. Look at that. Look how good that looks. Just as like a varying level of mushroom. I love it. Putting in some mush logs as well as the mush stools to kind of fill in the space in different colors. We're keeping this, again, solid colors, doing the yellows, the reds, the blacks, and the whites. That was pretty much the theme of this whole thing. Some greens as well to match, like I said, the bluish green table to match the trees. So everything kind of sticks together. Obviously, I think this build looks best in the fall time, but I still love how it looks in the summer. But I think my favorite time is definitely to see it in the fall because it matches the fall colors really well. Adding in some accents to the front. I want to be able to like have you go past this on the road there by the castle and really see it and be like, oh, that looks neat. I want to see what that is. Like, that was always my goal with setting it up from the stair viewpoint. And then of course we add in a bunch of vines to just add some detail here. I really think this kind of brings the whole build together since we have stuff on the cliffs as well. We're actually going to end up making the campsite go up there, and I thought it was really cool to kind of seclude the campsite in the little meadow and the just the enchanted forest here that we have with all the mushrooms. And here's where I'm testing out my theory with the carriage, and I love it. So I'm going to change it to the white carriage in a minute because I felt like it fit a little bit better. This orange one's a bit too bright for this current theme we have going. And then of course wanted to add some more ruined arches because I love them so much, and we don't have as many as I wanted to so far on the island, so I'm trying to incorporate them a lot more. And I'll hopefully have a few more in the smaller areas of the island, but for now I was really pleased. I ended up not keeping the archway here. I just felt like it was too much and it hid the carriage, so I ended up putting it over to the side, and we put a nice bench in the middle to compensate, and I think it looks really nice. We're going to back up that carriage and put in some moss, and then we literally put moss everywhere because you have to include it because that is literally, this whole island is a moss island. I think the way it's spread out with the moss, it's not like every single spot is filled with moss. I think it helps a little bit with the look of things. And then we added a few more of those lanterns because I really wanted to fill the space but also have some glowing looks throughout the entire place here. And this kind of area that's a little blank on the left here, I'm actually still working on that. I thought I might do another fairy type circle in this space. I haven't fully decided yet what that's going to be, but maybe we'll spend some time trying to get the rocks to actually show up into a circle. We'll see what happens. But I put the archway here to add another kind of photo op seating area, as if it was another area of ruins that they had in this forest. And we'll put another bench here in a second as well. And again, another adorable seating area that will eventually be the backside of another fairy circle. And then I made a ladder instead of a stair to go up to the campsite because I thought I wanted to do something a little different. I originally was planning on doing a staircase, but I don't know, something told me that I needed to try out the ladders. So I did, and I honestly think it fits a little bit better because it just makes it a little more secluded and it's not an obvious ramp up, you know, because with the vines everywhere, it kind of blends in together and I like how that looks. It definitely helps keep it a little more natural. So if you're looking for that on your island so you don't have to use a incline every time, I highly recommend the ladders, especially the vine ladders. And here's where we're going to set up our campsite. We're going to have a giant bonfire in the middle here of this path, so that's why I'm making a big squared path, and then filling it with beautiful trees to alternate and really continue the woodsy vibe that we have. I can't fit all the mushrooms that I did down on the main area up here, but I try to incorporate a little bit every now and then so that it still feels like it's part of the same woods. I also think it looks really nice having the alternating trees and mush on top of the cliff here, because it does add a little bit to our forest below when you have the low looks, and I just think it really ties it all in together. It looks like it's all meant to be here, and it looks, in my opinion, as realistic as we can get in the fanciful vibe for Animal Crossing. And came back the next day so that the campsite would actually be in place, because I personally like seeing what my builds are going to look like with all the structures in place while I'm working on it. And I played around with a lot of different looks for this area. I had some crescent moon chairs up here at one point, and it just didn't fit, so I ended up putting the tall garden lanterns in the mossy format, as well as some decaying trees to add to that spooky element that we have throughout the entire island as well. Since we didn't really have them in the mushroom forest, I wanted to include them up here to continue it, and we start adding in some flowers as well to this group, just to add a little bit different looks, so it's maybe another part of the mushroom forest but not the exact same. I kind of liked how that was, and give us some variation. I love also adding weeds in there as well, not just the moss, because I think it's just a nice variation to the details on the ground. And of course we have a plaza bench on this overlook, because I thought it was a kind of a cute spot to explore and find a place to see the beautiful ocean beyond. Kind of random, but I thought it looked really good, and I thought it worked for what it was, especially as a campsite. It's almost like you hike to this viewpoint and you can sit and look out from it. I think it's very peaceful. So if you ever need to come and think on Willowisp, that's your place to do it. Added in one of the big giant vines to fill the space at the end of this like cliff area, just to kind of add something to vary the cliff look on the bottom part here, because I know I didn't want to have just more mushrooms and trees, so I'm glad I kind of came up with this method. We put in at least one more tree though, and I think it just kind of helps put everything together. Yes, and this is our final product. I'm super excited about it. This is our campsite with our big bonfire and nature logs, you could say, and surrounded by weeds, flowers, and mushrooms to continue the vibe from the mushroom forest. I love the centerpiece to the path. I think it looks so good in this enchanted forest and this mushroom paradise. I think it's just a really unique way to do a forest, and I haven't seen it done before, but I'm sure others have. But this is just my take on what you would call for a mushroom forest, and I'm really excited about it. I think it's one of my favorite builds to date for sure. I think too it's fun to see like the pathway and how it looks when you're walking through. I think it just adds a whole other element to it. It just adds so much spookiness to it, but again, it makes it very fanciful. And I wanted to do a few shots where it does kind of show what it looks like while you're walking into it, and it looks so overgrown and mystical, because there's definitely not these big of mushrooms normally in the real world. So yeah, I'm gonna let these images flow, and I hope you guys enjoy. That is it for today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and if you did, please remember to give it a big thumbs up and consider subscribing so you'll be notified the next time I post. I love y'all so much. Hope you have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time. Bye!